But for some who survived the wave, there was something else to contend with, an invisible legacy from the nuclear power station on the coast of Fukushima. Its seawall was designed to withstand a tsunami up to 5.5 meters. This was twice the height. The flooding short-circuited cooling pumps. The reactors began dangerously overheating. We managed to track down one of the nuclear workers on site at the time.
Before the disaster happened, I thought nuclear power was 100% safe. It was precisely what people call the safety myth.
25 hours after the quake, pressure in reactor number 1 built up, then it exploded. It was the biggest nuclear accident since Chernobyl, in a country reliant on nuclear power.
When reactor 1 exploded, I was in the middle of evacuating from my home to the evacuation center specified by the town authorities. I was in the car, as the roads were chock-a-block. I was in the traffic jam. Cars were hardly moving.
He didn't know it, but radiation was already leaking from the plant, and those stuck in traffic had no protection.
I'm prepared for the fact that probably we suffered some external and internal radiation exposure.
Ken Tagawa and his family now live in a sports center with other nuclear evacuees. He's had medical tests which show he has been exposed to high doses of radiation. But it's children who are more vulnerable. His youngest wears a radiation monitor at all times. He's still unsure how much exposure they've already suffered. Dangerous levels of radiation are still widespread around the Fukushima plant. The government's evacuated all towns and villages in a 20-kilometer radius. They're still too dangerous to return to 6 months on. The Tagawas lived in Namiya, well within the exclusion zone. But today, he and his wife are going back in. Just for a couple of hours, it's all they're allowed. It's an operation being overseen by the Japanese military, scientists and the Red Cross. Dozens of other evacuees have also signed up, despite the risk. Under heavy escort, they're bussed through the roadblocks and into the exclusion zone. Mr. Tagawa is filming the journey for us. There's an eerie emptiness. Deserted fields are overgrown and poisoned. The levels of radiation here are still dangerously high 6 months after the leak.
When fleeing, we came just with the clothes on our backs, and we didn't have any of the things we needed. I wanted to go and fetch these things, and that's why I returned despite the risk, for the sake of the children.
This was their home. Windows and doors left open. There's no one here to loot. Mrs. Tagawa can be heard calling for the missing cat. It never comes. Inside, the house is just as they left it after the earthquake. It may be the last time they come here. These towns could remain abandoned for generations. All of that has helped turn Japanese public opinion against nuclear power. Of the country's 54 reactors, 43 are currently out of operation.